3 community stakeholder forums that are specific to the rollout of our Lansing School District Reimagined screen-to-screen instruction. I bring you greetings today from the Instructional Division and very specifically from the instructional team of the Lansing School District. I'm Dr. Delsa Chapman, and I'm serving as your superintendent and very humbled and happy to be a part of the Lansing School District family. Today, it is our intent to revisit what was presented on last Thursday during the board meeting, and there have been several media opportunities wherein which the plan has been revisited. Our goal today is to have open collective discussion with our community stakeholders, which includes parents, students, caregivers, corporate affiliates, and business partners, so that we can all work together as we move forward in this best fit decision based on health and safety during the COVID-19 pandemic. At this time, I would like to avail our time together to Superintendent Crope for some opening remarks and what I would call at this point some words of encouragement. Superintendent Sam.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. Before we start, I would like to have a moment of silence for a longtime member of the Lansing School District staff who passed away yesterday, and that's Dr. Eva Evans. Many of you may have known her, or had some feelings with her. She will be missed greatly, so we can take just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. As Dr. Chapman said, I'm going to give words of encouragement. I would say is this: we have, as a school, looking at being all remote at the beginning of the school year for at least the first 9 weeks. We have lots of, I'm sure there are lots of questions that we have out there, and we've been working very hard to flesh out these plans, and Dr. Chapman and her staff will be introducing some of those things today, and we would encourage questions through the chat room. One of the things that will happen is that we will, all the questions that get asked or comments in the chat room will be gathered together in an FAQ for a community FAQ, so to speak, that will be available later on this week. So without further ado, thank you for taking the time to be here today. And Dr. Chapman, I turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Superintendent Crope, for those words of encouragement. We appreciate your wisdom and your guidance. At this time, we will have Mr. Mitch Foster, our Director of Secondary Education and Magnet Programs, also has been very dedicated in developing and creating all of the components of our Lansing School District Reimagined focus and initiative. Mr. Foster is going to recap for us what was presented by way of PowerPoint. He's going to recap for us that in the form of an infographic, which will be made available on our website, on our LSD Reimagined landing page, which will be a quick reference guide and resource for community members, is very specifically for students and parents to continue to review and have great understanding or understanding in depth of what our screen-to-screen initiative will look like for the first marking period. Mr. Foster, are you able to share your screen with that document? It would not pull up from my screen.
I believe so. Can you see that now?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Chapman. Good morning, everyone. As Dr. Chapman said, this is essentially a summary of the PowerPoint presented to the Board of Education last Thursday. So if you have tuned into that, it should be familiar, but it's also just a good recap to set our context today. As the district went about reimagining how school might look this fall in all the conditions we're in, along with or in addition to research and white papers and discussions and forums and webinars, Two of the big guidances we had to think about here in Michigan specifically were our governor's releases, right? So in May, the governor released the MI Safe Start Plan, which spelled out 6 phases for the status of the pandemic. And they're summarized on this document here. These phases are really about the restart of the entire state and the economy in parallel with the conditions of the epidemic. And they spell out from, a very high risk time of phase 1 all the way to post-pandemic at phase 6. Another critical component that we have to consider is also this state set of phases. And this looks at a small level, regional level of risk factors in the state in terms of the epidemic spread. And you can actually go to the link on here and see exactly how they calculate these risk levels. They take in a lot of factors. As of July, I should have said, as of July 15th, our state was right in phase 4 on this top set of phases. As of July 15th, in terms of the risk levels, our state was at a high risk level of level 2. So both of those major components had to go into consideration for how we envision going back to school. You'll see on the map there that the risk levels calculated are by region. And so Lansing, the region Lansing there is in red. That's that risk level 2. All that then fed into our decision, which I'm sure you're aware of at this point, of reimagining a start back to school of a non-traditional opening. So I'm over here on the circle here. We can call that remote, we can call it virtual. We like to call it, and we are calling it, screen to screen. We're trying to make that as much like real face-to-face learning as possible. And as Superintendent Synchronous mentioned, this right now is for the first marking period. So if you're marking your calendars, that means August 31st to November 6th is the first marking period. So it's actually the first 10 weeks of school. And that non-traditional remote screen-to-screen learning has some major components. Obviously, it's district-wide. And we are going for one-to-one technology, which means literally one device or one device for every student. So that is not per household, that is per student. So if you have 4 students in your household, the intention is to have every student armed with a device so they can do their learning. That screen-to-screen learning, we want to point out, has to be and will be equitable, and has to be and will be different than the spring remote learning. If you recall in the spring, the 6 weeks of our continuity of learning, we didn't have time to plan for that very much, etc. So this, I want to point out, is meant to be and will be very different than that spring learning. In the spring, per the governor's mandate, grades could not go down for students. Not every student had to commit to even engaging in the learning, that kind of thing. We are now talking about going back to school. So that means going back to school. Courses will be graded. Teachers, students will be accountable. We will be meeting on a very structured schedule, much like the regular day if we were not in this pandemic. So very rigorous, very interactive, and accountable for all. And again, as close as face-to-face learning as possible. That also then involves thinking holistically for the whole child, if you will. There will be built-in socio-emotional learning. We will differentiate our instruction. That means really kind of target all levels and the needs of all students from the individual level, and lots of supports built in. So that whole reimagining then demands a call to action for all our staff and community members. I think you would have received it already by now, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're asking here, if you see our call to action by July 27th, that all our community, all our students and families answer 5 simple questions in a parent inventory. And those are making sure we have your correct contact info in our system, a question about whether you may prefer for your student to go 100% remote all year long. Some families may choose that. Do you have internet access? Do you need a laptop or a Chromebook for that student? And if and when we did go back to school in some face-to-face fashion, if transportation were not available, could you self-transport your student to a school if that did come up? Those are 5 questions we're asking for your response to by July 27th at noon. There are also some questions there you can see for our staff, because of course we have to synchronize everything our staff is doing with your students. And then on the right, you see the stakeholder forums. We have had similar forums and discussions with our administrators and all our staff, and we are convening 3 of these sessions today with the community members such as yourself. Now, one last thing, thinking beyond the first marking period, that November 6th, beyond those 10 weeks, what are the possibilities? Well, obviously we could have to continue screen to screen based on the safety levels and where what the conditions of the epidemic are. Also, what might happen, depending on those conditions, we might go into a blended or hybrid kind of learning, some version of face that is safe for all. Or if the pandemic's ever gone at some point after November 6th, we can go back face-to-face full on. We all know how to do that. So again, we're asking for your input on those 5 questions. Today we'll be looking, as has been indicated, for your comments and recommendations and questions in the chat. And I just want to reiterate this decision made with the safety first for all students. And one other thing I kind of forgot to reiterate or say, we also as a district, just so you know, are beholden or accountable to the state to present very detailed plans for 3 different plans actually. If we are in stages 1, 2, or 3 in this set of phases, everyone in the state is required to go remote. And so we're developing that plan right now because that's what we're also have to develop plans, and they're in the works right now for phase 4 and for phase 5. So all those things are going on, and those are actually due for us as a district in a couple weeks. So we're working hard on all levels of remote and how to envision the future, all with the safety and education of children first in mind. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Mr. Foster. We appreciate that. We do see that there are some hands raised in our participant box. For those of you that have specific questions that you would like addressed, we are responding to those in the chat. So please place your question or your comment you're wondering in the chat, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to capture all of that in writing. After our sessions today, we will be, as Superintendent Synchronous shared, collecting all of those wonderings and aligning those that have a similar topic and focus, and we will be adding them with responses to our current, and I say current because it's going to change over time. There will likely be several iterations. I will be sharing with you all today the first of what will be several different iterations of a community stakeholder FAQ, or frequently asked questions. These are the questions that we began to see through our social media, through Let's Talk, as well as just direct contact to us here at Central Office. So please, if you are willing, please type your question into the chat. There will be a time near the end of our time together today where we will be able to answer directly to the entire audience those questions that are being posed. Thanks, Mr. Foster, for recapping for us the Lansing School District Reimagined Screen to Screen initiative, and hopefully in presenting that, that drives our discussion today so that we are constantly revisiting why this very important decision was made. I can't emphasize enough that the choice to move forward with 100 online screen to screen is very specific to the health and safety of our students, coupling that with the fact that as of July 15th, the Lansing area in particular was identified as red or high risk. We have less than 50 days at this point to prepare for the opening, and we were not in a position to delay that decision any longer. As stakeholders, you were given an opportunity over the last 24 hours, or actually less than 24 hours, we pushed out an inventory, asking some very critical questions. We do apologize, technology friend or foe. Several of you reached out and indicated that you could not get in through the link. We made modifications to that. There were several of you who also were not able to access because you did not have the correct email or login information in order to complete that survey. We will be posting and sharing before the conclusion of today's session the information that you can go in to complete the inventory. The inventory will be open through Wednesday, July 27th. The initial cutoff was it will be open through Wednesday, July 29th due to the technological mishaps that we had on yesterday. If you need any assistance with getting into that inventory, please contact your school directly, but we also will provide that information on our LSD Reimagined webpage to help you with that as well. At this time, we would like to look at the results that we have thus far. As of early this morning, there were already over 1,500 responses to that staff inventory, and we want to be very transparent so that parents and community partners alike can see those responses, because it's based on those responses that we will finalize staffing, take a very close look at how we will need to assist and or provide childcare options. And so Mr. Kurt Barnum, who is part of our Improvement and Innovation Office, will share the results as we have them at this time. Kurt?
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. Good morning, everyone. So yesterday we released a survey. There were some glitches, as Dr. Chapman stated. We're working through those. One of the questions that came up in the chat is they didn't get any information for their kindergartners. We are aware of that. The kindergarten information is coming out today. You will get an email today with your kindergarten information and how to fill that out for your kindergartners. The first question that we ask is, do you want your child to remain in remote learning for the 2021 school year, even if we are able to return face-to-face? This is just giving us an idea of what parents out there are thinking. This is now, and by no means locking you into a decision at this time. Several parents have asked that question as well. Currently, our results are shown on the screen. Yes, did jump out in front of the nose, but for quite a while yesterday, it was a dead even. So your votes do count, and we are watching those numbers as they increase. We're asking, do you have internet access at home? Several parents have stated concerns about having multiple kids on their internet at the same time, bandwidth, that kind of thing. We are just trying to get a sense of how many people have internet access. We're working with scheduling and trying to figure out different ways to handle multiple people on at the same time. So if you just provide us the information of whether or not you have that access, we can take it from there and answer those questions. Do you need a laptop or Chromebook for your child? We are still working on how to get those devices out. We need to know how many devices we're going to need. So this question is going to help us answer that. As of right now, the results are on the screen. Are you able to transport your child to and from school if necessary? If we do go back to a face-to-face situation, we're just trying to get a handle on what our transportation will look like. So we did put this question in just to see how many of you are able, if necessary, to transport children to and from school. If you did not get the email, you can contact your child's school, as Dr. Chapman said. Numbers are also available on ParentView if you have your ParentView login. You can also email covid19@lansingschools.net. We are trying to get through those as quickly as possible and helping parents out. The link to the inventory is also here on the screen if you'd like it. Dr. Chapman?
Thanks, Kurt. I appreciate you sharing that data. And thanks to all of the parents who have been able, if you know of fellow parents that are having a difficulty completing that inventory, please encourage them to reach out to those contacts that was just shared by Mr. Barnum. We can't emphasize enough, we need the data, the data that you're providing is helping us to make decisions. This is a collaborative effort. We do not want our parent community, our business affiliates and partners to think that this is a top-down or administrative only initiative. We are working hard to be collaborative, to be open, so that we can work together. I want to share at this time that we received notification on yesterday that the Lansing School District is making media headlines all over. It's very interesting that there are now several districts with our own ranks within our own area, if you will, that are now making decisions from what they originally had to move to screen. I believe that once again, Lansing was the very first district in the state of Michigan to move forward with this particular decision. It boils down to health and safety. We know that there are challenges that will come as it relates to parents who are working outside of the home, as well as our students that we need to serve or are responsible with serving with IEPs and 504s. Please know that we are not taking that lightly. We are working around the clock to make sure that all of your wonderings, all of your concerns are addressed and that best fit decisions for our most precious constituents, which are our students. We want to make the best decision for them and for their families. With that said, we will move into just taking a very close look at some of the frequently asked questions that have been put forth, and then we will share what are some of the components that we've already moved forward with ordering and putting in place in terms of instructional materials and supplies that will be available for our students. So at this time, I will share my screen. Bear with me, you all. There we go. Okay, can everyone see that? Thumbs up? Yay or nay? Okay, thank you. So these are questions that we pulled in from several different means. We've been receiving phone calls, postings to social media, in many of the chats that we've had thus far. And so what we've done, this is our first of many iterations. I know that this FAQ is going to continue to grow, but since we are all together today, we did want to start sharing with you all as community partners, which definitely includes our parents and our students, where we are on each of these questions. Not all questions have a final answer, but we have addressed them as best we can and want to give an update as to where we are for each of the questions and how we will move forward. The very first critical question, since we will be screen to screen, is simply asking, will computers be provided to each student? The response, we are asking families to complete an inventory for each child, which those are coming in as you see. And I can't stress enough, if you know individuals in your community, even in your family, that have not completed the inventory, it's extremely critical that they complete that by Wednesday, July 29th. So yes, to answer that question, we are providing devices to each and every Lansing School District student, household, and individual student that have that need. Will internet services be provided for families? We have had the fortunate opportunity to work with ISPs or internet service providers who are willing to provide at either a discounted rate or for free for a period of time internet service. We do not have all of the logistics and the means of established for that, but that information will be forthcoming to our families. Will pre-K and kindergarten students be all screen to screen? At this time, for students and staff safety, all students will be working screen to screen with their teachers. And yes, that includes our pre-K and our kindergarten students. Fortunately for our pre-K GSRP students, those students have all along through high school been working with an online curriculum. So our screen to screen will simply expand that. For our kindergartners have been fortunate for the last 2 years to be working on play pads in partnership with an initiative through WKAR and Michigan State University. So that initiative will continue, and that program is very developmentally appropriate for our kindergarten students. Will each student have access and communication with a teacher? Students will be assigned to a classroom via Google Classroom, and that teacher will be assigned and have knowledge of interaction by way of Google. With that being said, the look and feel of the instruction will be as if the student is actually face-to-face with the teacher. Your child's classroom teacher, along with other support staffs and support teachers, will be interacting with the child every day using screen-to-screen instruction. And I want to say just a little bit about that. We are developing a balance between what is synchronous versus asynchronous interaction. Synchronous aligns right with that root word of sync. The learning is synced together. It's live, it's interactive. Asynchronous is instruction that can occur in multiple forms, whether it's group work, independent work, or work that's actually done outside of the regular school day. I know a lot of parents have asked, will classroom instruction be recorded? The answer to that is yes. There will be a lot of families that say, hey, based on our family schedule, it's going to be easier if we have the flexibility for the student to be able to participate in a more asynchronous fashion where they are viewing the lessons video and then participating in the teacher's scheduled office hours for support and clarification on lessons. And we'll have more information on that in the days to come. What if a student has an IEP or 504 plan? We are committed to ensuring that every student will receive the support he or she needs to be successful in our screen-to-screen environment. This may look different for students with IEPs or 504 plans. Each student's needs will be addressed on an individualized basis by the special education teachers and ancillary staff. Harmony Castillo is our Director of Special Education. I do know that she has several meetings planned for her special education staff, and they are already working on the tenets of being able to service students that have IEPs and 504s. Ms. Castillo, if you are on the forum with us today, are there any additional comments or statements that you can speak to in regards to our students with IEPs and 504s?
I don't think there's anything really additional, but we are looking for all input into the services and how they will be provided to the students on an individualized basis. So if anyone has input, we are happy to receive that.
And Ms. Castillo, is there a particular format or manner wherein which we would ask our parents of students with IEPs and 504s to share those wonderings and recommendations to you and or your staff?
They could contact the department directly, and that information is on our district website.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo, for sharing.
You're welcome.
What if the parents work and cannot be home? This is, at this present time, in addition to device acquisition and distribution, the child care component is something that we are taking very, very seriously. I am happy to say that we have had several community partners within the last 24 hours that have reached out to us to say, how can we help? We're willing to expand our services. How can we partner with the Lansing School District? We do not have all of the specifics and logistics worked out on that. That is an additional collaboration and forum session that, or planning session that we will need to convene. But please know, we are taking that into consideration, and we are working hard to be able to offer that as a support to our families. So families, parents, if you have recommendations and if you would like to be a part of that conversation, please feel free to email us at covid19@lansingschools.net to share that. Since this is a topic of concern, we are working hard and will push that information out in terms of what that's going to look like to our families as soon as we have it completed. Will the schedule be all day with no breaks? And this goes back a little bit to what I shared regarding synchronous versus asynchronous learning. A schedule will be created that will include breaks, meal times, and the need for physical activity. In addition, the schedule will include whole group, small group, and individual instruction as needed. So if, as a parent, if you've been wondering, how will my child work with his or her small group on writing skills, reading skills, math skills, all of that is embedded in the Google Classroom options of remote learning. So through a virtual classroom, your student will be able to still participate in that. We also want to assure our families that there still will be instruction and interaction specific to art, music, physical education, social emotional learning, mindfulness activities, and more throughout each and every week. So that schedule will not be locked in where it's just the child in front of a screen for a specified period of time. That will not look like that. And there will be more information to come on what the actual schedule will entail. How will I contact my child's teacher? All teachers, along with administrators, will be promoting and carrying out what we call office hours. And through the virtual office hours component, parents will be able to connect with the teacher. I know many of you are accustomed to working with Class Dojo, Reimagined, and several other apps. In meeting with the teachers on yesterday and with the administrators on Monday, we did emphasize that the primary mode of communication will be through our Synergy student information system. And so contact will be initiated and logged and recorded through teacher view, parent view, and student view. However, we will be allowing flexibility for those school associated means of communication, whether that's through a text messaging feature, such as Remind, as well as Class Dojo. So more information will be provided to parents based on individual schools and classrooms in that regard. Is attendance mandatory? Yes. Unlike the initial closure back in March, during our continuity of learning plan, participation and completion of coursework, which speaks to attendance, was optional. However, with this return to learn plan, as indicated in the executive order, as supported by the Michigan Department of Education, attendance is mandatory. Attendance will be able to be taken directly through Google Classroom because Google Classroom is synced to our Synergy system. Our attendance is embedded with Synergy. Will the classes be recorded if a student is absent? By all means, yes. All classes will be recorded from the teacher's side only. No students will be recorded. Lessons will then be accessible to families for review at any time that it is convenient for their schedules. How will my student get their meals? Meal distribution stations will be established throughout the district. We are still flushing out the details of what that looks like. As I stated earlier, that this is the first of several iterations on the FAQ. We are working with Sodexo Magic and other partners to ensure that all students will have access to free breakfast and lunch daily. This is the first of several different iterations of what this FAQ will look like. Obviously, it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. We want our community, parents and students in particular, to be best informed, and that information, it will be provided through our website, through robocalls, and other means, through your school level administrators. We want to stay connected and make sure that you have all the information that you need. At this time, I would like for Dr. Kamala Diaz, our Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, to share just a little bit regarding our instructional materials and supplies and supports that we will have in place for all students. Dr. Diaz?
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. Good morning, everyone. And it's so nice to have so many of you here. We have almost 200 folks from our community with us, and that's really important. That's how we better inform our decision making. We're kind of focused right now on the device side of things, but as some of you have mentioned in the chat, there's also a lot of theme-based and magnet programs throughout our district, which is one of the really unique things about Lansing. And along with that comes immersion education, STEM, STEAM, environmental science, PBL projects, and lots of other types of learning experiences. And we're working to make sure that as many of those opportunities that can be recreated in this environment will be done so. So in that vein, we are putting together student learning packs for our families across the grade levels, again, pre-K to 12. There will be some standard materials provided to everyone, such as pencils, pens, notebook, paper. There will be materials and supplies specific to elementary students, such as crayons, markers, fat pencils, fat crayons for our youngest ones, as well as for our older students who might be in advanced math courses with calculators. We'll have rulers available for everyone. And then each of your schools, depending on their theme or magnet focus, they are also working to put together additional packets of materials that will include specific items for different PBL or other hands-on learning projects that can be done at home. So those packages will be distributed at the same time that we distribute the technology to all of you, so that you will have all of the tools that you need in order to complete activities both online and on paper. In addition, we'll be putting together materials for art projects and things that students will have the opportunity to do, because our physical education, art, and music teachers continue to want to provide opportunities and supports for students. So those will be additional materials that will come out that will be more school specific. We have a lot yet to figure out, a lot of teams of people working behind the scenes right now, teachers, principals, and central office folks, to try to flesh out what the daily schedules will look like for each of our grade levels, what's an appropriate amount of time to have students engaged screen to screen, how will that day look? So those are things that I know a lot of us still have questions about. But please bear with us. We are working to, to build those schedules, and those will be pushed out as they are developed and solidified. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Diaz. I see in the chat that there are questions coming through. One very specific to what you were just addressing. As it relates to textbooks, most of our content at the elementary level, very specifically for ELA and for our mathematics, is already embedded in the supplement Think Central. So students will still be completing coursework, Go Math, and then for mathematics, and through Journeys for K-6, which is ELA, and Collections for our older students in grade 7-12. So the plus to that is that there will not need to be an actual text read. However, for both of those, ELA and mathematics, there are consumables, and consumable means it's once we distribute that to the student, it's theirs. That's not something that we will need back. We are working on a distribution process. So parents, please be assured that your child will not only be equipped with a device, but will be fully equipped with the tangible or hard copy forms of instructional materials that they will need. We have not yet finalized the logistics or determined the schedule, but that will be forthcoming. Another very critical question that has been asked, which has nothing to do with the Lansing School District, but obviously we want to know the answer as well. Will EBT cards continue to be loaded to provide funding to help with meals in the homes? I do not know that answer. I do know that that could be very specific to a second wave of CARES Act funding to our Health and Human Services, but that is a question that we will look to reach out on your behalf to get an answer for. As it relates to our high school classes, I know that a lot of parents and students alike are asking, will I literally have to be in front of a screen for 6 or 7 sessions per day? We are looking at possibly having a modified schedule. We also know that there are several households where the older children will likely possibly be providing support to their younger siblings. The question has been asked, can high school students start later in the day? These are all questions that I, along with the instructional division, will be addressing literally within 1 hour. We will be convening, addressing these questions that I just shared and all the others, and not finalizing all the answers today. But as I stated earlier, we have been working round the clock on your behalf. So please know that the chat questions that have been put out today will be captured, and those are the questions that we will go through and align and categorize, if you will, and have responses for and add those to our FAQ. As we begin to come to the close of our time together today, please encourage your families, your friends that have not had an opportunity to complete the inventory. We really need that data. That data is going to determine the outcome of a lot of decisions that we still have to make. And as I stated earlier, we here at the Lansing School District, we need and want this to be collaborative. Please do not hesitate to continue to reach out by emailing us at covid19@lansingschools.net. You can also share your wonderings and make recommendations by contacting us through our Let's Talk app. We really appreciate the number of you that have given up and sacrificed this morning to be a part of the conversation. In the essence of time, we will not be opening the floor for individual discussion. However, I'm hopeful that you were able to place your questions in the chat, because that is the mode of communication that we have elected to utilize for these forums. That is the conclusion of what I would like to share today, and I would like to close out by asking Superintendent Synchronous if there is anything else that he would like to share with our community today.
I will echo what Deputy Superintendent Chapman has said, and I appreciate the presentations. I've been reviewing the chat, lots of great questions. We will work, as was said, to get these answers out as quickly as possible. And I would echo also that you can contact us at covid19@lansingschools.net, and we will be more than happy to figure out an answer for you if it's not readily available. Once again, thank you for your time today, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from us soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Synchronous. I would like to close on this note and say I appreciate all of the support that we have received thus far from both staff, parents, students, and the community. We realize that this, this is a challenge, and it puts all of us still in a place of wondering in terms of how are we going to fully execute. But please know, we made this decision based on health and safety. It comes down to the health and safety of our students. We welcome your wonderings, your recommendations. We are wholeheartedly taking into consideration the flexibility that is going to be needed for students that are in homes where there are working parents, or the dynamics thereof is just very different. And the fact that screen to screen has been put into place will pose challenges. We are here for you to work through those challenges, and we appreciate your support. Please look for updates, especially the next wave or the next iteration of our FAQ. This will continue to grow. We want to make sure that you are in a best fit situation. Before closing today, I do want to make one final announcement, and that is in regards to how will parents be trained? How will parents be informed on how to connect and utilize Google Classroom? Through a new initiative that we have developed and will be rolled out through our STAR grant, we will be offering what is called Parent University. We have already identified 2 dates, August 11th and August 18th, wherein which Parent University will be unveiled, but also the focus of those sessions will be an orientation for parents on how to execute Google Classroom. There will be more information to come on those 2 sessions, but I did not want to end our time together today without informing parents that we have not forgotten about you and the need for you to be well acclimated to the Google Classroom concept that will be the primary means of instruction during our first marking period as we move to screen. With that being said, I would once again like to say thank you for your commitment to the Lansing School District. Thank you for entrusting us with your most precious commodity, which is your children. Thanks so much, and everyone have a great day. Thank you.